What's that noise?
It's just the wind.
No, I can hear something.
Imagination.
I'll take you there, no problem. I know where it is, sir. I'll take you there.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, hey guys, welcome back. And what we're going to do today, following on from yesterday's stream video building the Fmod engine, is that we're going to refine that engine and build a trans for the Kenworth KW900. So welcome back guys, Iron Beast here, having a fumble around through Fmod and modding. Usually I focus mainly on libraries for ATS, ETS2, Xplane and Microsoft Flight Simulator and a couple of other bus games and things like that. But on the side, what got me interested was that I just wanted to build my own particular engines and mods and sound effects. So I got started about a year or so ago building Knight Rider skins, and then from there I wanted to build Knight Rider engines. And the Knight Rider engine got me started with Fmod, and as you saw yesterday's stream, I fumbled my way through it because I hadn't used it for a while. At the time, I just probably over a year ago, I made a series of Knight Rider engines with sound effects and a Batman Tumbler engine. And until yesterday I hadn't picked up Fmod again. So we got through it though in the end and had a working engine in the battle truck. And so today I want to just refine the sounds a little bit more and then match it to a 15-speed trans to get the drivability that I'm looking for. And that would be I want this particular truck to have good acceleration, but I don't want too much top end because I'm going to be driving this truck on hauls in VTCs. And so to register in truck books under rail miles, obviously, as you know, it needs to be under 130 kilometers per hour in ATS, and otherwise it goes to race miles. So the problem with the Knight Rider engines, even though they're drivable, it's so easy to go too fast in them. In the video yesterday, I was using the Kenworth W900s, one of their 6-speed standard SCS transmissions, and it was too fast on my particular engines. So we'll be having a look at that too. So let's just open up Fmod and have a quick look at the few refinements I made between yesterday's stream and last night and today. So going into the engine, we've changed the startup sequence a little bit, and so we've changed the turbo sound as well, which I really like the way it is now. So, and then when we go into the idle, So what we've got there is we've carried that jet idle through right up to the track's idle speed, which is, I think for that particular engine, idles at 600 revs. We'll check that in a minute, but it seems to work quite well. And then of course the turbine starts to spool up just briefly, just to give a sound effect, and then goes away. So let's try that out. So you can hear right there what I've done over here is I've taken away the Knight Rider Turbo Boost sound effects and bits and pieces, so you've just got jet and the cabin hum, which I really like. We've taken away the Super Pursuit Cruise mode, this sound here which happens, but actually that didn't happen, did it? Let's try it. Okay, so what you're hearing there is down here in no fuel, so that's going to be prominent when our foot's off the gas, so only when we're cruising. So it's more like an auto cruise sound effect. Now I do like it. I took it from the Knight Rider, obviously, sound effects for my Knight Rider engines, and I'm wondering if we should move this up into the normal driving. Let's try move it up to the normal driving so that it sounds when we're actually driving normally. So I think what we're going to do, guys, is we will copy that and have it both in no fuel and driving. That way, when our foot's on the gas, we've got the Super Pursuit mode jet sound, and when our foot's off the gas, just rolling, it's still there. I think that's going to be better, so let's have a listen to it now. Okay, so there it is, and so, but what I do want is I want it probably not as prominent, so let's take it down to maybe -5 decibels, and I think it'll still be there, but it won't be as noticeable. It's a bit loud in game. -5, -5, very good. I don't think you can really hear the difference here, but let's try it. So you can hear there is a slight difference in volume that we can hear in this particular mode, but at the same time it will completely change in the game. So let's have a listen to it under load. So what we've got here is, I think this particular sound effect was taken from the tumbler, and it was used in my tumbler engine. So you can hear sort of the whine of the straight cut gears from the actual tumbler here. So if we go up. So you can sort of hear that. And then this is another open pipe sound effect from existing tracks that I've just edited and used as well. So anyway, that's all pretty good to go. And of course, my favorite is the engine brake. So let's turn on turbo, load engine brake, the whole lot. Take the solo. So that's perfect. So I think that's ready to export those slight changes. And one last thing to check is, of course, the loops on some of these sound effects which were on. So the loop's still on there. And what that means is that anytime that we're in this range, that sound's going to loop, which is a bit of a worry. I think it should be okay though. And I think we changed the loop on, yeah, there we go, stage 2 jet. So this sound effect only happens once when you activate coming across, and then when you come back down the rev range, and that way it's not winding up as it used to before. So if we loop it, solo that. So you can hear it looping there. You can hear it sort of looping, going back to the start and then starting low and then building up again. So we don't want that. So I've taken loop off on that particular sound effect so that it only goes when we hit 600 revs or when we come down and hit, what is that, 1400 revs. And so that way we have a sound effect there. But if we're sitting in this range for, let's say, going around a corner or something, it doesn't keep looping. It's just going to be there and then be gone, which is fine really, because I mean you get past this rev range pretty quick in a matter of seconds anyway, so that should be fine. So let's go ahead now and export this, build it, and export the Geo Ids. Then we'll go to our folder and go build. Get rid of the master files because they always trip me up. Rename this to our Geo Ids file. Done. Take those and put them into our mod folder for the KR20K Super Suit engine. And just to double check, we find the folder for that in our sound definitions, and it's going to be in this tumbler sound here. So I'll just quickly open that up and Notepad++. Double check that we've got the right directory. Alright, so we're in sound, track, and there it is right there. So we'll just copy and paste those across. Perfect. So now that sounds good to go in the game. Next thing we need to do is put the transmission over so that this engine drives a bit better. At the moment it drives like a GTA 5 style, way too fast, gamer kind of, not sim engine, which I don't really want. It's never really my goal with these mods that I build. So I'm going across the KR Fusion transmissions, and these are the transmissions that I built for my Knight Rider engines to handle the power. And you can see I had the 15 speed, the 18 speed heavy for heavy hauls. That's got a different gearing. The 18 speed standard, the KR Pace race engine, which was great when I was going over the hills in Mexico. And you can see those videos, older videos on YouTube, where I'm racing over the hills in Mexico at high speed, and matched it to front wheel drive chassis and all sorts of bits and pieces. But anyway, today what we do need to do is we need to build in a Kenworth 900 folder. .w900. So there's the folder, and I think the Ken 200 gear ratio is probably the best. So let's just take that and copy all of those trans straight over into Kenworth 900, and we'll just check that everything lines up. The icon. So if we go across to our materials and just check the icon is there. Icon, inspiration, KF15 RF. So there it is. That's our icon for the trans. So that's perfect. So we can go back. That's all lining up well. Alright. So now let's have a closer look at the actual definitions for the trans. So I think we're just going to go with the 15 speed because that's easiest. So there are ratios, and it's all these are all modified actually, these ratios, but we can actually have a quick look at those in the program I used to build my transmissions and the torque curves on the engines. Let me just find that quickly. Haven't used it for a while. Reference. Where is it? Where is it? There's two. Find it. Where are you? Alright, so we've got the gear calculator here. And we also need to pull up the definitions for the engines as well. So I think the easiest way to do that is to open a new folder. So that's Ken 200. We need to change that to Kenworth dot W900. And now this whole trans is going to work perfectly with the Kenworth 900 if we've done it right and I haven't missed something, but we'll double check all of that soon. So we're in the Kenworth W900 folder and we have the transmission open and we've told it that that's the Kenworth W900 transmission. So we should be good to go there. So the next thing we need to do now is map the trans onto this program so we can check all the shift patterns and bits and pieces and all that kind of thing. It only lets you map 7 at a time though, which is a real pain. But, well, I can map 10, so that's good. Let's map 10. First gear, we got 14. Second gear, 9.05. So we're just taking these ratios, mapping them straight into this program so we can get a picture of our shift patterns and speeds for our engine. 6.32, 865, 3.9, 3.19, that's close. 2.82, 0.190. If I missed the gear, oh no, we're right. 1.94 and 1.70. Okay. So, I wonder, we open that up and we go through with our gears and we want our max RPMs at 5,000, which is, if we go back to our Fmod engine here and we look at our rev range, you can see that the main sounds top off at 5,000 revs. After that it's just cabin hum, and that's because my original engines did go up to 7,500, but it was ridiculous, it was too fast, so it didn't need to go that high to get power. Okay, and so 5,000 is where it's cruising at auto cruise or super mode sort of cruise, and this is the end of all the main sounds and jet sounds and all that taper off. So we can just call it, and actually we're going to map the engine out so that we don't go too fast, so that we're probably going to drop all the power. That's going to drop away as the turbo drops away, so as the jet engine tapers away too. So really we could say that at 4,400 revs the power is going to drop away, and we'll do that soon. So we'll just knock this back to 4,400. All right, that'll do, 4,400. And then let's calculate and let us shift trace. Okay. So this tells us straight away what speeds we're going to be hitting in each gear. 13 kilometers at the change point, shift point, 21, 30, 39, 48, 59, 66, 86, and 97, and that's at red line. So we won't be going to redline. I mean, if we look at this and say that we're going to shift let's say that we do a let's say we shift around 3.5 really. And that's still going pretty quick. So I think we can shift at 3.5 and with an actual RPM of say 400. And we'll try that again. So okay, so if we're shifting normally, now you can see that the speed's going to be quite a lot slower. So let's have a look how that overlaps. So this trans isn't my custom trans. I think this was basically the first trans that I played with, which is a Scania trans, and it looks like it was really built for hauling quite heavy loads, the way that these gears are spread out, or should I say not spread out. I mean 10th gear to get to 110 k's, it's a little bit ridiculous. And then so that gives us an idea what these gears look like anyway on the road when we're driving. Tells us what kind of speed, so they're pretty close together. Means that you're going to change pretty fast on an engine this powerful, but that's fine. And then you're not really going to go that fast right through to 10th gear, but there is a second factor that we need to consider, and it is this. When we go and have a look at my engines, I come down to the car 20k Super Pursuit. Let's look at the definitions for the Kenworth version of this engine, or the battle truck engine that we've built. There's the battle truck engine there, and so you can see here our torque at certain revs. So we've just got under half full power at 440, which is idle. Our idle speed down here is 550, and that's relevant because that's going to tell us how our sounds work. So that's 600, so it's idling at 550, so it's going to be sitting in this particular sound effect here the minute you start the truck up in a sitting. So let's have a listen how that actually sounds. So that sound is going to be whining away the whole time you're at idle, which is probably a bit loud, I'd say, but it needs to match the startup sound. So if we go to startup sound and we see that it was at -4, and then if we come back to this idle sound and see that it's a -6, so it's actually lower, but it's still pretty loud in game. So maybe we'll have a listen again. It actually sounds okay. We might be able to get away with putting it to -7, but we probably can't drop it too much, otherwise it'll be noticeable. It's the pitch that makes it sound a bit louder. So that's our volume, that's our pitch, that'll be fine. So anyway, that tells us that the engine's idling here, and then it'll start to take off here. So we need to change idle to 600 really, because otherwise you can see all these sound effects for the engine don't actually start until 600 revs. That's only 50 revs. Will the lag even be noticeable? For now we'll just leave it, because I don't think that lag will be that noticeable in the game, because there's always some delay on the pedal anyway. So let's just leave that as it is, but at least we know where we're at. The other thing we need to do is start having a look at what speeds these gears are doing and what's happening at those particular revs in the game. So we probably need to change this actually. So we need to shift at 3500, redraw the graph. Now we've got a better idea of what's happening. So we don't need to worry about our peaks and troughs in the torque curve, because the engines are a bit ridiculous with power, because I've made them that way on purpose, so that it's got heaps of pulling power, heaps of torque. But at 3,500 revs you can see we're not going very fast at all. But so we've got our idle, we've got our rev limit. Well, we're going to start by making that 5,000. So let's, and then our neutral rev limit 3,500, just so you don't get over rev sounds and all that happening when you're sitting at the lights, trying to show off to the girls walking across the road about your big bad truck. Engine brake, that's powerful enough. That's all set. Okay. And you can see, of course, the cool thing about the Knight Rider and now the battle truck engines is they are super, super fuel efficient. Alright. Let's have a look what's going on here. Secondary torque gear ratio 5.5. Why is that important? That's when the second power kicks in, and the power is probably, I think, 50% more power in the second torque curve. So where is 5.5? Why is that 5.5? We really want to get through to about 7th gear before secondary kicks in. So that should really be at 2.82. 2.82. And that's for several reasons. First of all, if something happens and you end up stopped and you're on a straight or you're on a flat, you want to be able to use the truck's torque, well, the super torque that are in these engines anyway, to just take off in 7th gear. So I map everything around 7th gear, and that's because on the Logitech setup that I'm using, you know, obviously it's only a 6-speed 8 shifter, so if I'm in 7th, I don't want to click buttons and go back down through to 4th, 5th, and that 6th just to get going. So I want to be able to have enough power to get moving again in 7th without changing gears if I want to be lazy. So 2.82 it is. There's 2.82. So now we're good. So now that we know when we're in 7th gear, so we're crawling in 6 gears, and then once we hit 7th, we're going to get 50% increase in power, and it's going to be crazy. And then we're going to go through these gears a lot faster. So in 7th, at revs, we have got our power. So again, if we have a look, we get up to 80% power at 3200 revs. We go back and have a look what's happening. 3200 revs, the kind of sounds that we have at 3200 revs. So that's really good, because that's sort of cruising speed. Well, that's the sound I want to hear. So I want to be able to cruise sort of between about 2800 and 3400 without having to worry about the pedal going crazy and having too much power and having a hard time holding the speed, because as I mentioned, the whole idea is to be able to stay at under 130 kilometers per hour but still have this cool sound effect. And of course, it's all good in theory, but the engines are so powerful that once we get in the game on the road, it's probably going to change. But for now, by the theory and the way that I built these in the past, it should work out. And under load, when we start to accelerate and have all that power, here's how it sounds. So that's load. That's turbo. So that's kind of cool. So we're going to have all that load and all those sounds happening around our cruising speed the minute we put our foot down. So we'll go back down here, start up. And I think we also want to spool that turbo in. And possibly have it go out at 4200. I think we need to change the pitch on this a little. So I've got it not looping, you'll notice, because I don't want it to just keep going whoop, 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 while we're driving along, sitting in this rev range. And of course the whole thing is designed that we can sit around 32 to 3400 and not have all these other sounds happening until we put our foot down. It's going to happen once, then we're going to drop back down out of range. Then if we put our foot in again, it's going to happen again. That's not looping the whole time we're sitting here. So if we sit at this speed, and the turbo's only going to play once, and then it won't be there. And so, but that's pretty good too, because if we're cruising at high speed, we'll probably be more up around 45 to 500. Because I'm going to taper off the power so that at maybe 43 or 4400 it starts to go maybe 80% power here, 50% power here, 20% here, 10% and 0. So that if we choose to sit at the top of the rev range in any gear, it's not going to keep accelerating. Otherwise these trucks will just keep going. So I'm in this engine when I built it for Knight Rider. I think the fastest I hit was around maybe 520 k's an hour, but it was really hard to stay on the road. I think at about 400 and something k's an hour it started to get really hard to stay on the road unless you're on the straights. So anyway, that's where we're at, and I think that's good. And let's go back here, have a look at our gears. I'm not really happy with these gears. I should really go to one of my other truck transmissions, but never mind. So I think that's going to be a little bit dog slow, to be honest, but as our rev range is 5,000. So if we're shifting at 3,500, so if we shifted right out around say 42 or 4,300, which is the max, so it's going to drop off to 80% at about say 4,300. So let's draw that graph. So shift speeds through the gears are still pretty average. This doesn't look like the trans I've designed in the past, but the best thing we can do probably now is drive it. So wow, and you can see here on the transmission that this thing powered all the way up to basically 4,600 revs. So we don't want that. So at 42 we want it to drop back down to say 90. So we want it coming down pretty quickly actually. And at 44, it's 42, and obviously at 5,000 we're going to be at 0. No more acceleration at 5 minutes. We'll just leave that in there for the faster engines, but we don't really need it. Actually, we will leave it there though. So at 46 we want to be 4,800. We still want to get to 5,000 so we can hit that sort of auto cruise sound. So I think 30 is probably good. And we can just go 45 here, 65 there, and 75 there. So we're going to get a pretty even fall off from 4,200 revs down to 5,000 revs, but we're going to have enough power to get us to 5,000, and then nothing at 5,000. So my goal is to sort of get to 5,000 pretty quick, and then be able to sit there and not accelerate anymore, but still have enough. If we drop the revs a little bit or go up a hill, that we've still got enough power to boost back up to that 5,000 rev range and just sit in that sound effect. For me, it's just sitting in that sound effect that we want. We want to sit in that auto cruise or super pursuit mode sound. So that's the sound that we want to sit in. We want to sit between sort of anywhere outside, what is this, 4,300, because of course all these sounds are happening. At 43 there are very few sounds happening. It's cabin hum, it's the jet, brake jet, and the super pursuit mode final jet. So we just want to sit in this range so we've got less noise happening, but at the same time usually 5,000 revs would put us up over 300 or 400 k's, which is a bit ridiculous, especially for a sim game that's about trucks. But I can guarantee that if you watch some of my videos, I have been able to drive without crashing coast to coast at those kind of speeds in ATS in my previous Knight Rider truck. So it is doable. but I don't want to go too fast. I just want to be able to enjoy the sound, not go too fast. So that's why we're doing that. And here the same problem. We want to not go too fast in these gears. I think that's okay. So the only thing left to do now is to try it. So carbon neck can work. It's okay. Okay, battle track engine. And let's change the name as well. To we're going to call it battle track. We're going to change the name to battle track 40k. There we go, BT 40k battle track. Now I can no longer get mixed up. And of course this engine is amazing because it costs us minus $75,000 to equip this engine, but actually an engine like this, it should probably be about $125,000. So it costs us minus $125,000 to equip this engine. Aren't we lucky? And now it's changing over at the right gear ratio for us, which is 7th gear. 2.82 7th gear. And if we change this now to shifting at 3.5, and our rev range is, what did we say that we were dropping off power? We're dropping off power at, really we were losing acceleration power by 4,400 revs. So that would be the maximum shift. Let's see what kind of speeds it tells us. So that's our max rev, sorry, is shifting at 4,400 with a 5k max. Here it's our max. Cool. That's our shift at max RPM. And all these settings are based on the existing truck. So this has been glitchy. Why has it been so glitchy? Anyway, that's annoyed me a bit, so it's a pain in the butt. So let's see if we can shift it here. It's 500, 5,000. We've got max RPM. Just like that. Okay, max RPM is 5,000, and those are our speeds for shift. So that says we're going to be going ridiculously slow, but it's not going to turn out that way. So let's minimize this, let's get in the game, let's give it a shot and make sure first of all the trans is going to show. That's all good. The engine, that's all good, and everything's good. Let's start the game, see how we go. Fingers crossed that train shows up. Set up the console here. And we should still be sitting at the service center. So checking the engine, there we go. KI-40K battle truck. Those changes have happened, that's good. And is the train showing? Here are all our transes that are showing. However, only that one is still mapped. I should have changed the name on that one. Powered axles too. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's try that. Let's go for a drive and see how it runs. Beautiful. So you can hear we've dropped that turbine sounds a little bit lower. We go up to cab, we hit the engine, and let's go for it. There we go. So the lag isn't really noticeable, the delay in the 50 revs that we talked about between idle and picking up speed to accelerate. So let's go for a drive. Oh, listen to that authentic battle track sound, love it. Where can we run to? Where are we? These roads are horrible. So let's go here. Then take that stretch. Let's do that. You can see what I mean about the power in the gears and all the speeds and that. Although we've mapped it, it doesn't work exactly how we thought it would. But it's how I wanted though. We can hear that engine rev the whole time. Nothing's really looping. Alright. So that's pretty good. That takes a little bit. The revs are quite high to be able to get to that 130, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to accidentally get past that speed too quickly. It is a bit quick, but we are empty. And then when we slip through to 7th, we have a whole lot more power. And that again is perfect because you can see that speed dropping off when we're up around that 5,000 revs, that you can hear it because of the Super Pursuit mode sort of sound effect. But it's dropping off quite nicely, so and then we're at Super Pursuit mode. I still like that Knight Rider Super Pursuit sound, so I've chosen to keep it in this engine, but we can still hear the revs happening, which is perfect. Oh, what's going on with my gear? Whoa, what's happening? Okay, I'll tell you what, brand new 10th gen gear, and this is the performance. It's like, what the heck's going on? So I'll tell you what, let's get rid of some weather. Annoying. Let's actually get in the track and listen to it. And this is what I was talking about. So we're in 7th. I don't want to change down. There should be enough torque in that second torque curve to take off. And there we go. So the wheels are letting go rather than losing power, which is good. And that's perfect because that's exactly what we were after. So we needed to get moving in 7th. We could. There's more than enough power that's going to happen even with a good sized load on. let's just keep going. Oh nice, just pull out left and then right again, what a jerk. Well, there's a little bit of traction in there. So that's really good. That's given us the torque we want even up in the high range, which is good because if we need to pull up quickly like you've just seen here, take your foot off the gas and that engine brake's going to come on strong even in the higher gears, which is good because if we need to come down quickly it's going to be from high speed. So I'm actually quite happy with the way this trans is performing. Looks like we've done the job quite well. The only thing left would be to test it under a heavy load. Yeah, that's perfect. So it brings us down pretty quick if we need to. And even without changing gears, so that's what we wanted. And still a fair amount of power. I mean, it's definitely not one of the faster engines, but it's fast enough. Oh, listen, that's beautiful. What a sound. So that's only 12. We haven't changed through to go into 13th, 14th, and 15th. Need to, you can see we got up over 300 Ks. So if you do want to go fast, you can, but we've achieved having this engine a lot more drivable for guys that want to just do a normal speed haul. Because you can do normal speed all day and get to decent speeds even under 7th gear. But if you want more power, you can just jump through to 7th and have crazy power as well. Actually, where does that go? Let's go straight. And again, the torque of the engine, once you're in that second torque curve, look at the acceleration even in 10th. Pretty good. Bring it back, bring it back. Good, good girl, battle truck. Wow, okay. I think I'm going to have to get a bit used to driving this particular chassis. It's definitely not my Freightliner, but it's still pretty good. Out of the way, battle truck's coming through. Quick, beautiful. Anyway, we're going to stop here. Otherwise I could drive all day instead of finishing off what I wanted to do in this particular stream. Beautiful hum, and as you saw in Fmod, that sort of turbine hum, whistle, spool up noise is a little bit lower. It's still there. It's not as prominent, which is what we want. That's perfect. And just quickly looking again at our awesome machine. Just beautiful. Some lights on. Beacons on. There we go, beautiful. Well, for how I was hoping it would sound, I'm really happy with that. So I'd say that's definitely a win. So yeah, just quickly again guys, what did we do? We went into Fmod, checked our sounds, and refined a few other sounds, and put the volumes down a little bit for our jet idle, once we were at idle. We checked our Super Pursuit sounds up here. We put it into both the normal driving and no gas or no gas pedal modes of the vehicle. We built and exported that sound file, and then we put that sound file into our game file, our sound file for the engine, and then we went into our transmissions and added in the Kenworth W900 for the existing transmission. Some of these trucks that I have got different mapped transmissions, so I'm not sure which, but we have a look here. This might be the same actually. Even though it's the same Fusion, sometimes they were mapped a little differently. Looks like I've just copied and pasted that, so that's okay. So anyway, we copied our trans definitions into our Kenworth folder so that we had that transmission in the Kenworth truck now. And then we just checked the mapping of those first 10 gears, and we could remap the remaining 5 gears if we wanted, but I haven't bothered at this stage. You can see it's more than fast enough. And then we came into the trans itself, and we had a look at these torque curves and adjusted the high range torque curves so that we had a power drop off from basically 4,400 revs down to 5,000, so that we could sit at the top of the rev range and just enjoy that sort of cruising sound without all of the other engine sounds, but without accelerating too much. And of course the acceleration, as you saw, started to get a bit slower around the 4,800 revs. Although I didn't have my telemetry up, so you couldn't see the telemetry itself in the game, but you could definitely get a feel for it in terms of how we were accelerating, how the truck was driving in the game. And then we left our idle the same. We dropped our rev limit down a little bit, and everything else pretty much remained the same. Awesome coefficient, an amazing price for our battle truck engine, which we renamed in game as well. And I think I'll just double check the file, transmission file for W900, and because we've changed that map, I probably want to rename this as well to battle truck 15R Fusion. And then now I know, and that's quite expensive for a trans. I mean, we're special people, and this is special gear, so it stands to reason we should have a special price. And I don't think a trans is going to be $1,000. I think it's going to be a good 10 to 15,000 plus for a trans. Well, let's say this is a good trans, so it can handle huge power. So let's say it's quite a good trans, and let's make it minus $45,000. So there we go. So it's going to cost us minus $45,000 every time we buy that trans. So we could go and buy 10 trucks and have end up with $450,000. We could make that price whatever we wanted, really. If you'll have a look at some of my public mods on some of the other sites that are in my descriptions, you'll notice that some of the Knight Rider skins I made came with a $250,000 bonus for driving for a Knight Foundation. So you could do that. You could make it minus 250,000, which obviously I did for the skins. But anyway, so that's in. That's good. That's changed. That's all changed. So now, what's it saying? Good. So that's all done. And of course we changed this just to have a look at how our gear changes and shift patterns actually look and what speeds were happening, and then double checked it on the table down here as well. And as you could see, when you go in game, start driving the truck, it pretty much blows these out of the water, because I think in 6th gear we were up around 140 kilometers. So, but this is based on the shift patterns and bits and pieces. A really good way to map engines that aren't as powerful, because these shift points are relevant, in terms of how quickly the truck's going to accelerate through the gears. So we can get rid of that, and that's all done. So there you have it, guys. That was the my build and refinement of the Fmod engine, with the sounds finally tuned how I wanted to, compared to yesterday's stream and video, and of course putting the trans into the game as well. because originally when I tested the engine I was just using the standard Kenworth gear, and it was obviously way too fast because there were 6 very tall gears on an engine that was way too fast. So now I've got a drivable battle truck, and I'm really stoked. So over the weekend I'm going to probably, if I get a moment, just change the textures on the battle truck cab, and of course shift the trailer mod over to a flat deck trailer so that I can sort of refine the contours of the trailer so it looks more movie specific. And because you've all got to love the movie, because, well, maybe not love the movie, because even I didn't think the movie was that great, but the truck itself was super cool. Look at that. And now we have our own version, so I think I've got to put armor on the drivers and passengers window and door. And apart from that, the changes that between my version and the movie version were specific and on purpose. So I want to keep chrome on the truck so it looks like a road version of the battle truck, and not a post-apocalyptic world, menacing, boring looking tank. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something that you might be able to use for your own modding. Feel free to give me any questions, just send them through, and I'll have all my details below for that as well. Love it. And we have a battle truck. We have a battle truck with the authentic sounds, which happen around here, I think. Look at that. Our battle truck definitely looks a little bit cooler, I think. I should really put 50 cal out there, the turrets as well. Maybe I'll add those in. Oh, look at that. That does look cool though.
Discard your weapons and stop immediately.
And of course, finishing up with our awesome sound. The exact sound that we clipped and put onto our truck. Love it. Love it. Anyway guys, thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next video.